Today we're going to be checking out the high gain monster of the Bad Cat family, but we're maybe going to show that it's not so much of a one-trick cat. Let's check out the Bad Cat Lynx. Hello everyone, Kieran from Guitar here, and I am very, very happy to be joined in the studio by Jack Griffiths today. Thank you so much for joining me, man.
My pleasure.
Jack's actually up in Glasgow just now to host a clinic, actually, with Bad Cat on the day of recording. Obviously, you guys will be checking that out later in the future. I'll pop the links down in the description below, but Jack
The links, you say?
Oh, the links! Hey, there we go. The spoiler alert. That's
Sorry
what we're
to
talking.
interject there, but I love a pun when I hear it.
You saw your opportunity and you took it.
I very much did.
That's
yeah.
why I really
Sorry,
appreciate
Kim.
it. No, you're quite all right, because we're here to talk about the high gain monster of the Bad Cat family, and that is the Lynx,
Hey.
which is actually Tosin Abasi of Animals' Leaders' go-to amp at the moment. And from hearing Jack play this for 30 seconds or something, I could totally tell why. But what we're here to kind of talk about today, and what Jack is very kindly going to show us and me today as well, is that this amp isn't so kind of just focused on that really high gain sort of metally tone, and that it's got a little bit more under the hood that maybe people that are not too sure about, you know, when they're looking at this, because the Bad Cat line, certainly it has quite a few different amps in the range. I would probably say that they're all kind of going from that clean to medium gain sort of thing, whereas the Lynx sits on its own sort of high gain island.
Yeah,
That
it's the outlier.
it really is. And I certainly, I mean, this is, I guess, something I need to work on myself, but I see the name Bad Cat and I immediately don't associate that it's going to be, you know, this huge punch in the face. And even the fact that there's a gate built into this amp, it's not something that I would immediately associate with, but there is a lot more going under the hood with this, and I'm just going to let Jack kind of take the reins and show me what this amp has really got to offer.
Okay. Yeah, so I think you're dead on with your assumption, which I think probably everybody shares. The Lynx is the high gain.
Mm-hmm.
The high gain capable
Yes.
amp. You know, it's well within its wheelhouse to do that stuff. So just to clarify the way it's set up actually fairly similarly to pretty much any of the other Bad Cats, where there's 2 channels and then 2 modes for each channel. So in the Lynx, that takes on the guise of being channel 1 and 2, which isn't like a clean and dirty channel. So whereas most high gain amps that we think of have that kind of setup, you know, pristine clean and then monster gain,
Yes.
and not a whole lot in between. I personally, that's not my thing, and I'm very pleased that that's not what this is either. So channel 1 and channel 2 actually have a similar level of gain, but they're voiced a little differently. So channel 2 has more mid and more fullness, whereas channel 1's a little not scooped, but it doesn't have that mid emphasis.
Yeah.
The high gain comes in when you flick between low and high gain modes. So you can pick your voicing, if you like, between channel 1 and 2, and then you can pick low or high gain.
Yes.
So you're dead on in that it will do that high gain thing, and it does it very, very well. But the reason I like the Lynx is that it's still very clear when you hear it that it is a Bad Cat. It still has the same kind of vocal quality and that same articulation. And the reason I'm playing this guitar and not you know, a more stereotypical contemporary high output pickup guitar is that, yeah, it'll do that, no problem. But if you take a Les Paul and you're in the low gain mode, channel 1, with the gain about halfway, and I'll turn the gate off just for this first demonstration, and the delay that's in the effects loop off as well. If you do that, it sounds like this. So that's not a sound that's in, you know, I won't name any other brands here, but those high gain amps that we think of, they don't have that that kind of level of teeth.
No, it's that was kind of the way that, you know, whatever adjectives we want to fall on to sort of describe that, but it is a much more kind of cutting and less all-encompassing gain tone on that there. You know, that's got that kind of medium sort of gain spectrum if we were to sort of look at it in that sort of way. And certainly for, you know, the articulation that you touched on is one thing from getting a lot of kind of bad cat amps under my fingers, I guess you would probably call it for that.
Yeah.
But getting them actually and getting them really kind of cooking as well is that the articulation on these amps is one of the really key features, and to have the ability to have a somewhat of a clean kind of crunch channel, but then that still translates onto the high gain that you're still hearing every single note and it's not just this big mush.
Yeah.
I think helps the Lynx stand out in that sense that, you know, as we said, compared to its contemporaries and whatnot, that it's just not this huge kind of wall of sound that's punching you. And I actually, if you wouldn't mind just kind of testing out as well, is I want to see just with that channel there, just by rolling your volume off just a little bit, just to kind of see how well it does clean up with the dynamics and with the, obviously, with a humbucker guitar or something.
Yeah, sure.
If you wouldn't mind.
Absolutely. So I'll start full on and back off. So it doesn't go clean.
No.
It's still kind of compressed. But to me, it has the character of like late 70s, early 80s amps, where I can't think of a better adjective right now than teeth. It's always like
absolutely
rearing to go a little bit further. But at the same time, it is still sensitive to the way you play. So if I do neck pickup with the volume down, it will still, it doesn't go into chimey kind of territory, but it has a delicacy to it as well. So it just feels nice. It always feels like, and this is the continuing theme with all the Bad Cat amps, is that the feel is right. That's what initially attracted me to them as well as just the tones. So the nice thing is that you can kind of, you have the knowledge that the feel is right if you like that, if you're that kind of player that responds well to dynamically interacting with a guitar amp. But then you just have different flavors that you want to apply that you want to channel that feel through. So to give another example of, it's all about the nuance and subtlety, right? So gain 1 and gain 2 here, jumping between channel 1 and 2, they're set fairly similarly, and you also have independent volumes for each of those channels too. So you could say have just that channel 1 could be your rhythm sound, and you set channel 2 with the volume a little higher and the gain a little higher for a lead boost, for example. You know, so they're not like worlds apart from each other. It's like you've taken a really nice boost pedal and put it into the front. But it is capable of a lot more than that. But if you're that kind of player, that's all you want, it could do that.
It could really, and it's one of those, like, just to kind of go back on what you were saying as well, is like the teeth adjective is throughout the entire time, and I imagine you would have felt it while you were playing as well there, but it's kind of like, it feels like it's raring to go. You know, as you said, it could really shoot off if it really wants to, in terms of like, look, I've got this gain here, I can use it if you want to, but if you want to hold back, then I'm willing to do it as well, which is really cool, because a couple of times that you just did dig in that little bit more, it was kind of like, oh, this is I've got this ready to go here, you know.
And it does it in kind of an endearing way.
Yes.
Like some amps, you have that same thing where they're just constantly wanting to bark at you, but there's no way to make it sound pleasant.
No.
In anything less than that. Whereas this kind of humours you a little bit. It's like,
A little
go
bit.
on, just push me a little bit
Go on,
harder.
go on.
But if you don't
I'm so
want it,
capable.
it's okay. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
It's demanding to be tickled a little bit, whether that's with a pedal that you could put in the front, which I don't think there's any need to do because the amp is responsive enough, and you have enough kind of gain options. But then your initial impression of this was as a high gain thing. So that's I really like it just for that. If this amp came out and it was just the low gain mode, but 2 channels,
oh, it would be so usable. It's
like an ultimate classic to hard rock amp.
yeah.
But the fact that you can then go to the high gain mode, so I'll stay on channel 1 and just, all I'm going to do is go from low to high gain. And you hear there's a drastic difference here. So it still has the same character, but it suddenly goes, whoa, there we go. That's what I wanted to, that's what I wanted to do all along.
Eventually, you've let me go wild, and it's quite funny because you touched on like channel. I mean, we are still on channel 1 here as well, but like if we were getting like late 70s, kind of early 80s, there, we've almost jumped ahead like 10 years in terms of like the gain structure that we're getting with that. That you can go from that. Okay, we're a bit more, you know, reserved. We're a bit more kind of classic in there to, okay, no, I'm now the star of the show. Here's all my gain, you know.
Yeah, but it doesn't do it in an overbearing way where suddenly you get loads of low end and it scoops all the mids away.
Yeah, yeah.
It still has that teeth and that articulation. And then that's just furthered when you go to channel 2. So if I set the gains the same and the volume's about the same, and I do the same thing, so channel 2 in the low gain mode, just has a little more mid, it's a little bit more full sounding. And then back to the low gain. You know, it's the same character, and that's what I personally really like. And I think it's going to appeal to that kind of player that just wants familiarity, and they know how to be expressive through the guitar controls and maybe using a couple of choice pedals. But then it kind of gives you license to go anywhere you want to go within the gain spectrum.
Yeah. While
it still feels familiar. It's not that amp that, like I said before, has a pristine clean, and then you suddenly switch to a completely different vibe altogether in the high gain.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all kind of within the same sense of familiarity, which...
Like, we're stepping it up kind of incrementally each time,
Yeah.
you know, which I think that's one of the cool things is, you know, you do have your options with the Volume 1 and Volume 2. As Jack demonstrated, you can use that as, say, okay, we've got a rhythm channel here, then with a slight volume and a gain boost, we've got our lead channel. But I would even say, like, within each channel, that low and high gain option, that could be your clean and your solo right there. You know, there's enough spectrum within each of them to, you know, say you've got your classic rock gig on channel 1 and then you go to your full modern metal on your channel 2. It means that you don't need to kind of worry about messing about with it. That's probably quite an insane way to approach this amp, to be fair, but hey,
You can
How-
be insane if you wish.
Who am I to judge? You know, how you set up your own amp there as well. And
Yeah.
I guess that's probably a good opportunity for us to jump onto that high gain channel, or even just to look at the second channel to show where that can go as well, because
Yeah.
we were incorporating a little bit of the gate as we were kind of getting this set up, and
Yeah.
that's definitely going to appeal to not just the fact that when you start, well, I mean, we're sitting pretty close just now with the cab, so it's going to start squealing a little bit, but
Yeah.
if you are more into that kind of super compressed, sort of mid-focused, you know, modern sort of guitar tone,
Yeah.
the gate is really good in there as well, because it just, you know, it means that you don't need to worry about a pedal if you want to move away from that world at all and just have it all kind of focused within your amp,
Yes.
which is awesome.
It's a very useful tool. So the gate is controlled by this knob furthest right, and it's completely off right now. And as Kieran said, if I'm on the high gain mode on channel 2, that's the sound of rock and roll right there. You know, these are probably unpotted,
Yeah,
low output pickups, so
absolutely.
very microphonic anyway. But as soon as you bring that control up just a little bit, there we go. And there's so much scope to clamp down on how aggressive you want that to be. And we just played around finding, right, what is the cusp there? Because you can still be dynamic with it. If it's maybe, if you bring it down just a little bit so that I can still sort of clean up on the guitar. And then, you know, so there's a slight delay there when I stop playing. But you can just find it and perfectly tailor it to the way you play and the guitar you play. And it will take a bit of experimenting. The nice thing is, though, that when you go to the lower gain sounds, even with that gate still in there, it's still expressive. And it's not going to choke you off.
Yeah, it's not clamping right down on that as well, and I think it's really worth reiterating that, like, that's barely on, you know, that's just as soon as we heard it kind of starting to work on with that high gain there. So
Yeah.
if you do need that total, you know, choking your notes out, there's no, you know, if silence is a real big part of kind of like any rhythmic riffs or anything like that as well,
Yeah.
you've got so much scope still left to go in there as well. And I think it's a really handy studio tool, I think, as well, because, you know, sometimes if you do just need that little bit of kind of clamp down on your extra noise and stuff, or, I mean, even if you are playing, you know, a certain gig or something where you are just experiencing a little bit more feedback as well, to have that built into the amp is such just a handy feature, I think, you know.
Oh, we've all played those gigs
I just
where there's like an untraceable noise or weird radio frequencies you're picking up,
Yep.
or it could be anything, and you just, that's the one thing in my gigging experience, that's the one thing that I felt is missing sometimes. You're like,
just really
need a gate.
Really needed that
Really
there,
need a
yeah.
gate. Of all things I didn't prepare for, it was extraneous noise. And, you know, you can get by with the guitar volume control. The gate isn't going to be for everybody, but if it's not, no big deal. Just turn the thing off.
No big deal. It's not getting in the way. It's not affecting your tone, anything like that. It is really, really, really cool. And I guess it's one of those things, like, really important to touch on that as well, is like, you know, to have all this gain at your disposal, it doesn't mean that you necessarily need to use it. You know, it's if you're not a fan and you're not, you know, into that sort of thing, that's fine. But you should try it, definitely, if it's there.
Yeah.
But this amp, you know, I mean, I've had my sort of preconceptions of it like blown completely out of the water, just even in terms of hearing it with a slightly more kind of vintage inspired guitar. You know, I the first thing as soon as we plugged this in with Jack is asked, oh, do you want a 7-string or an 8-string or something in there? But, you know, that's not our point that we're going with here as well. And I didn't want to put him on the spot too
I also
much.
can't compute that many
It's just,
bits of metal in front of me.
But with this, you know, it's if you are a fan of more of those kind of classic rock, late 70s stuff,
Yeah.
that, you know, it's really going to handle this well. And it's it's all there for any situation. I think it is like if you're in somewhat in the same position as maybe you maybe thought this was just a one-trick cat, as I said. This it does have a lot more kind of going for it, and I think that you'd be quite surprised. I think for what it really does give you. But if you would humour me ever so slightly, and let's go a bit crazy on it.
Well, I was hoping you were going to say that.
Yeah.
I've just dropped this guitar to the realm of D.
Yes.
And so the gain is about halfway. These are low output pickups. But if I'm in, I'll stay on channel 1 first of all, because this I find channel 1 is a bit more expressive. It's more open and broad. There's that term again, open. But even the high gain mode, there's enough gain there to be chunky, but still you can hear the articulation in the pick. So you don't really need much. Well, I don't need more gain than that. But if you want to, you can, and just maybe up the gate a little bit. And the one thing that's often overlooked, but is super powerful on all the Bad Cat amps, is the mid control. Super, super important to understand how impactful that can be. So if I vary that from, I found like 2 o'clock is usually the sweet spot, but dipping it below that.
I don't think I'm going to be able to get that sort of stank face off of now. If the wind changed, I would have been stuck like that there.
Stanky boy.
That's such a powerful tool built into that, because I think like we maybe grew up kind of similarly, that we'd learnt that zero mids equals high gain tone, maybe if we were cut from the same cloth. But
yeah,
that's your recipe to be lost in a mix right there. You know, if your mids are completely low, then that's you're not going to actually be heard at all, just in the context of a band. Whereas you saw even with Jack moving it from the kind of 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock position there, it really, really dramatically changed the mid frequencies that were going on, which I think just having that much scope in there is a great tool, because you can adjust it by small amounts and it's going to make a huge impact depending on the situation you're in. Especially if you are playing at higher gain, with that, I think we do have a tendency to try and just push the gain as high as possible, but that mid, that's your secret right there.
Yeah, and again, I overemphasized the gain by having it way up there, but if you wanted to, you could play a really weedy sounding guitar and carefully sculpt that tone to make it sound as big as you need. You have plenty of gain on tap, but again, you can back it off. And if I was to do what haven't we done? We haven't done, like, if I take gain 2 and turn it way down, for example, low gain, you probably get kind of like a nice bluesy sound if I push the mid a little bit too. Yeah, it's maybe a little compressed, but that's a sound that will work for a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah.
that's just a nice, present, full guitar sound.
Yeah, there isn't anything wrong with that whatsoever. It's just, again, I can't reiterate kind of heavily enough how just this sort of like preconceptions maybe of this amplifier have been totally kind of blown away. Just well, as soon as you get in and start kind of messing about with how much gain is on tap, with how dramatic the EQ actually can be for anything, it's just good if, say, something like the Cub or the Hot Cat or something like that maybe doesn't give you as much as you need to. This is going to give you that and more. If you need it, which is good. It's you can almost think as the Bad Cat like lineup, everything kind of overlaps ever so slightly. In terms of like, well, you'll get the this amount of gain with this, but then the next amp up is going to give you about half of what the previous amp has done you.
Yeah, but as we said earlier, the character retains throughout.
Yeah, there's
the same kind of personality.
Yeah, and I think it's for anybody listening as well with there, I think you'll agree that even when Jack pushed all the gain on that, you could still hear every note. It was all super articulate, and I think it may be one of my new favorite amps as well. It's just
nice.
Even just hearing it without getting proper hands on it, it's leaving me quite inspired, and I'm sure everybody would absolutely agree as well. But yeah, thank you so much, Jack, for obviously giving me a very quick demonstration of this and completely changing my opinion on the Lynx.
It's a pleasure. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, if anybody else in the comments down below has had the same revelation that I have, please do let us know. And if you have liked the video at all, of course, give us a like and a subscribe. I'm going to pop all of Jack's links down in the description as well below, his Instagram, his YouTube. It's really worth a follow as well. But again, thank you so much for popping into the studio today, man. And I'm really looking forward to the clinic that we're going to do tonight, which you can check out as soon as we've uploaded that as well. But until next time, I've been Kieran, and this has been Jack, and this has been a very quick look at the Bad Cat Lynx. Have a great day.
Cheers.